Commander Riker doesn't have any old memories that he'd like to share with an audience. Keiko O'Brien tastes paintbrush juice in her imagination, and Klingons do not allow themselves to be probed. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 5, Episode 12, Violations, although I misspelled it. It says Violations, like in French. Story by Sherry Goodhart, T. Michael, and Pamela Gray. Teleplay by Pamela Gray and Jerry Taylor. May have heard of her. Directed by Robert Weimer. This was February 1st, 1992. Where were you? How you doing today, Sirach?
February 1st, 1991?
Two.
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
I'm doing great.
All right. Everybody, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications, and if you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. We'd really appreciate that. And please go visit us at patreon.com/the7th-rule to support the show and make sure that we're still alive next week. Otherwise, we turn off the lights, we unplug the refrigerator, and the show will continue, but we'd love to have you. Anyway, so Sirach,
Yeah.
it was a fun one, huh? What do you think?
Yeah. It was
Maybe not fun.
not fun. I wouldn't say fun. Only one person looked like they were having fun in this episode.
What a creep. Can I just say that guy was like that's an episode that's kind of sticking with me because I usually watch it right before we record, but instead I watched it like 2 days ago when I had time, and I'm still thinking about it. I'm just like, what kind of a creep like invades your memories to either have some kind of sexual pleasure or to torture you by using your memories into some kind of twisted nightmare? I don't even know. What do you think?
Yeah. I thought it was an interesting idea creatively. I mean,
Yeah.
for one, it was really good casting for this main villain guy who just had the looks, that look on his face. It's like there's that guilty, smug, hiding something. He had all of the characteristics of a scumbag creep. So fantastic job casting with that, because he did pull that off.
Nailed it.
He nailed it to the point where I was really disgusted by this guy, and that's what made it uncomfortable to watch because of the level of violation that I was watching. And that's where it becomes something like conceptually the idea of somebody able to essentially invade your memories with their own presence, right? That is something that's interesting conceptually for science fiction. I think it worked well in this episode. It kept my attention the whole time. I was kind of, like, what's going on here? And, the episode started off with Keiko. I was happy to see Keiko in the opening scene, get a chance to do some acting, some real acting.
Yeah.
I thought she was good in that as well. Watching her animate the scene with the cup in her hand and tasting and doing that whole kind of reenactment of the memory, I thought was well done by her. So
Yeah.
it opened for me with some intrigue. I was like, what's going on here? We got a Keiko open. Okay. And then who are these Yulian, telepathic historians? So that was cool, because I like to see alien races. I like to see variety of aliens that have different abilities. And to me, as a telepathic historian, it sounded like a great, oh, this is cool. Let's, we could use more of that. I could get on board with that. And then when you see how the abilities, corrupted, then you start to question it. But yeah, I like the idea of that.
Yeah, I really like the thought, what you just touched on, telepathic historians. Anytime they give you a new concept, you're like, oh, Telepathic historians. I like that. That's interesting. They kind of have their own record banks, their own jobs, their own, culture and history. That, you could definitely see something there. And I like that the three Yulians were different in nature. There's nothing worse than when the entire race is homogenous. They all act the same, they all think the same, they all talk the same. They just look slightly different, because it's different actors. But these three had different personalities, which was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the best part of this episode was the creativity and the concept itself. Like you mentioned, that just the idea that somebody could be kind of welcomed into your memories, but then could twist them and invade your memories in such a sadistic way, right? The guy seems like a sadist, but that was just such an interesting concept that I've never thought of. I never thought like, what if there's an alien race, that's telepathic, that can help you dig up your memories, they can see your memories, but then they can insert themselves into that memory. That's very creative. Whoever came up with that out of the three story buys deserves a lot of credit. Also, something
Yes.
that I just noticed a few minutes ago was that all of the writing credits are ladies. Now, there's one called T.
T.
Michael.
Michael.
We don't know.
Yeah.
But Pamela Gray, Jerry Taylor, Sherry Goodhart's. So I
Yeah.
wonder who it was out of those, Sherry, T. Michael, or Pamela Gray, that really kind of came up with that nugget that everything sprang from. It's interesting.
Yeah, I can't say, but I do think the idea is great because once again, when I think of telepathy, I think of it more in the way that it's used in Counselor Troy's, usage of it, basically sensing emotions, being able to, you know, um, feel and detect whether somebody is being truthful, and maybe even I think of telepathy as maybe reading your mind or essentially communicating telepathically. So putting words in your mind, like being able to communicate without saying anything. The way we see Troy and her mom talking, right, when they're together and they're not actually moving their lips, but we can hear them talking to each other. So we see, I think of telepathy used more conventionally in those ways, where two people are talking with each other without moving their lips, or somebody's reading the other person's mind, um, but not so much as in being able to visualize memories, recreate memories, and invade the memory itself with your presence. That's a whole nother level and twist to telepathy that I don't think I've ever really thought about before. Not that I sit around and think of different applications of telepathy, but I watched this. This was a great idea. It reminded me of there was the movie Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio. I think it was DiCaprio, where he was invading people's dreams to find out their secrets.
Really? Is that? I never saw it.
Yeah.
I did see Conception, though. That was a no, but I
Yes,
never
we all
saw that
saw
one.
Conception. If you're listening to this, you've been concepted. So,
It's true.
but the thing is, so that idea was also in a movie called Dreamscape a long time ago. This was like an old
Interesting.
80s movie. I used to love this movie. I don't know, as a kid, it was one of my, cool movies to watch. I think it was called Dreamscape. And it was about similar to Conception. It was about, fighting and invading people's dreams. I think Inception was more about trying to get secrets from people, so you found out where they, what their ATM PIN code was or where they hid their valuables. There it is, Dreamscape.
Looks
That's a
almost
throwback
like
movie right there.
Indiana
Yeah,
Jones almost.
yeah. The artistry on the for the artwork for the movie does look like Indiana Jones. Looks like they copied it exactly.
Wow, pretty cool.
What does the bio for Dreamscape say? What does the write up on it say?
Let me see.
The descriptive line, because I thought it was about.
A man who can enter and manipulate people's dreams, nailed it, is recruited by a government agency to help cure the president of the United States of his nightmares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So he was able to infiltrate your dream, essentially. And so it was a cool movie, very good. I think it had like a train climax scene where they were able to transform into so many different things because it's the dream state. But anyways, that's where I've heard similar ideas that to this, but not quite exactly the same, and certainly not used for the nefarious purpose of kind of like sexual violation. You know what I
Right.
mean? Where that part, that's where I really felt the most violated about this idea, to
Of
be honest with
course.
you.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was hideous. And I
Yeah.
like that at the end, the Yulians flat out called it rape. Like it
Yeah.
would have been ugly if they say, oh, well, it's if there was some kind of defense of it or some kind of discussion about it, that they themselves were like, this kind of rape was outlawed 200 years ago, and they just like flat out like call it what it is, say this was done before, we don't do it anymore, it's
Yeah.
totally against our code of conduct, put it in that box, that's what it is, and address it for what it is. So I thought that was cool that they actually
Acknowledge that.
yeah, and there wasn't a discussion, that they just said, that they cut to the chase. That was good. Because you always worry about something made, 25 years ago. You never know what they're going to do with that, how they're going to
Yeah.
address things. But maybe that's what happens when you have like an all female group of writers. They're like, let's just call this thing what it is. There's no discussion here. So that was cool. And I also found it interesting that there was a twist that I was not expecting. Like I vaguely remembered this episode. And all I remember
Yeah.
about the episode was Jev, the main villainous, mustache twirling guy. But there was a twist in which when he's visiting Deanna Troy's memory, he's able to implant his dad into that. So then we as the audience then think, oh shoot, was it his dad the whole time, but was like framing him? Because I know that's what I thought. I thought, oh, wow, what a twist. His dad was framing him the whole time. We've discovered it turns out it's his dad. Whoa, crazy. But then we find out, no, they didn't even explain it. They just said, oh, no, it turns out it's him. And we can just kind of figure out, oh, obviously he can implant somebody else's imagery. He can change anything, But that was a good twist. I don't know if that got you, did it? Got me.
It did get me. It was a great twist. That's what I thought was great about this episode. For one, I didn't know the answer, right? So sometimes you see an episode, it starts off, and you kind of like, I know where this is gonna go. This is pretty predictable. This is one of those, Alexander comes over and Worf has to be a dad, and then he tells him, off you go. So kind of like where it's gonna end at some point. This one, it gave you a sense because they did highlight the suspicion of this character from the beginning, so they almost gave
Yes, you're
away.
right.
They gave away that it's about this guy, right? From the beginning, they kept giving him solo close up shots where he would look mysteriously over, and these kind of weird looks that he was getting. So they let the audience in on the fact that no, this guy's a weirdo, because you didn't get those vibes, for example, from the mother Tellurian, Yulian character,
No.
right? She was very sweet, and she felt genuine. She felt honest, and she kept saying, for example, "Honey, you can't read people's minds without their permission and stuff," because even the dad was technically crossing lines of protocol with his powers, right? He was open about it, but he was still slightly abusing his abilities because
Yeah.
he was he called Riker out, for example. He's like, "Hey, Riker, I got some memory. You got some memories I want to talk about."
Yeah, you got some memories swirling around in your head at all times. That's why you're smirking on the bridge. And then when Geordi says, "You got any memories you want to? Any memories down deep or something?" He's like, "None that I want to share with people."
Not with this audience.
Yeah, that's what it was. None with this audience. So that was definitely a nice Riker line. Obviously,
but it also shows that this guy's using his powers against Riker too, without his, so there's already a violation.
He was also coercing. The fact
Right.
that he was trying, he's like, "Hey, come on, you want to try? Just come on. We've never had any issue." I was like, dude, no means no, man. Like,
Yeah,
calm down, guy.
Yeah, and he was doing that with everybody. Like he was forcing himself on Geordi. He kept asking everybody, "What about you? What about you, Dr. Crusher? You look like you might want to talk about something." And that's also that was a sign for me that they're willing to cross over certain lines, even ethical lines. It seemed like the mom character, the elderly woman character, was the only one who was strict about her morality and ethics. Right? She was like, "No, you can't do that. That's not right." And so she kept her level ethical and morality throughout the whole episode. It was the other characters, the male characters, that were like, first the father being like, "Come on, you want to do it, let's Jack."
And he probed Crusher too. He even said "You're thinking about that first kiss, aren't you?"
Yeah,
it's a little invasive.
Yeah. So I just felt like right away they let us know, okay, these people have disability and they're willing to use it in a slightly inappropriate manner. That's what I got from the opening scene, right? And I also felt like the crew wasn't, where they were off put by it. They were like, "Nah, I'm not sure about that."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that they're there's a lot of gray area. They kind of not too worried about crossing lines here or there. But one thing that kind of took me by surprise, and I thought of you in this instance, was when at the beginning, and you kind of alluded to it a little earlier, they have their little open where, sometimes it's 2 minutes, sometimes it's 7 minutes, but there's usually like a big twist, like searching for survivors. There are no survivors, Captain. And then the music swells and then it goes into the opening theme, right? Big, oh no, or the Klingons are coming or something like that. This one, do you remember what the little cliffhanger thing was? They're like, "Oh, this is fun, this is interesting," and they walk away, and it just showed Jev sit down and be like, and that was it. They're like, "Oh, there's a guy
thinking."
Yeah, but he looks a little fish. There's just the fact that they put him there with the end of the scene and the music swelling just leads us to believe, oh, there's something with this guy. I got to watch this guy. This is the sinister guy. But there was no twist. He didn't even say anything like, I'm going to do bad things, or like, there's just nothing. I was like, that happens I feel like this only happened one other time, and I don't remember which episode, or like maybe in like the second or third season, where it was just kind of like, there was no twist, there was no cliffhanger, there was no
build up for a big thing. Yeah, because it was like, oh, Keiko thought it was tea, but it was really paintbrush water.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, mystery solved. Her grandmother used to paint. Okay,
I think she called it called her Obachan.
Oh yeah, her Obachan.
I don't know.
Obachan. Yeah. Either way, it was like, a chipped. I was like, okay, I'm writing down chipped cup.
I know. Oh, there's something. Oh, sharp edge. Okay, interesting. I mean, I'm gonna cut. Yeah. I'm gonna really figure out the clues here. No, it was just there was nothing else there.
There was nothing there, and here I am writing down chip on her cup, and I wrote down Keiko's got a chip on her shoulder, but on her cup.
Yeah, and then suddenly she just remembered everything. It all came swirling
Yeah.
back, and Daddy-O
But
is the good guy,
that was
Tarman.
actually interesting because I don't know if that's ever something that you've ever had conversation about or discussion about, and that is, would you undergo hypnotism to recall a memory? Because I've always thought about, like, there's some memories that I have that I would like to revisit and have some clarity on, because some stuff is fuzzy and vague. Not that it's like a traumatic event or anything, but it's just, for example, I had some really crazy dreams, and I'd like to know. I just can't remember certain parts of the dream, and I'd like to
Oh,
know
fun, yeah.
you know what
Hmm.
what was that dream about. Um, and I don't even know if you can recall a memory from a dream. You know what I mean? I know you can. Maybe you can recall a memory of a real life lived experience, like, when you were in fourth grade and you were at that track meet. But can you recall when you were in fourth grade and you had a dream that you know what I mean?
You know what's
Um,
funny about that? That actually happened to me once. It was, I'd say, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And I was awake, and it was like, I think it was still morning though. And suddenly I remembered, sometimes you remember a dream, right? I remembered a dream that I had when I was 5 years old and did not remember at any point between five and that moment right then. Not
wow.
even the morning that I woke up as a 5-year-old from that dream. Because you know what I mean? Like usually you wake up and you remember that dream. That dream was gone in deep in my mind. Didn't think about it, even didn't even know about it even the morning that I woke up of having that dream for my entire life. And then one day I was like, but I knew it was when I was 5. Like I could I could pinpoint it because I knew whatever it was like, oh, that was, I was most likely 5. It was like kindergarten. Like for some reason I just was able to know exactly when that was in time. I don't remember
Yeah.
it now, but it was pretty crazy. And it was like vivid. It was like, whoa, this was the coolest thing ever. And then it was gone again. Oh, well, I don't know if it was a great dream, but that was an interesting thing. So sometimes,
Yeah.
weird stuff like that happens. We remember dreams and then we forget them and then we remember them
So it's
again.
in your memory bank. So that's
Yes,
an
it's in
interesting
there
thing that you're
forever,
talking about. Your dreams, whether you remember them or not, are somewhere in
stored.
a memory bank stored in your brain.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
We have everything in our brain in storage. It's just accessing it.
Because I don't remember dreams. I very rarely remember dreams. But when I
Really.
do remember dreams, they there's some kind of poignancy to it.
Hmm.
I just won't remember a stupid dream where I'm just like riding around and go to Jack in the Box or something crazy. But it has
That's
to
a
be
fun dream.
something. It's a fun dream, but it has to be something poignant in it to make me remember it.
I'm such a laugher that sometimes I have just like hilarious dreams where I wake up with tears in my eyes from laughing so hard. Like I'm literally laughing myself awake. Like I'm like, what a great way to
uh,
start the day. I'm
that's
starting
great.
the day laughing my freaking French ass off. And I'm like, but then when I think about it, I'm like, it wasn't that funny, but in my dream, I am laughing. Oh boy, that was so fun. Anyway, that's a fun way to start the day. So sometimes just a stupid
Yeah.
dream. Anyway, I don't know how we got on the subject of dreams, but everything is stored.
Well,
Like
these
we have
memories,
everything. And yeah, and
yeah.
people can do like hypnotism and things like that and really have you retrieve these dreams. And that's what it kind of looked like was going on there. Actually, whoa, we got to jump to our break. I almost
Okay.
forgot. I almost forgot about that. Okay. We'll be right back
All
on
right.
the seventh rule.
All right.